Let's start with a scenario all of us are sure to recognize. You're at a social gathering and you notice two types of people. The first type is constantly checking their phone for likes, jumping from conversation to conversation, seeking validation, and adjusting their opinions based on who they're talking to. The second type is different. They're engaged in meaningful conversation, comfortable with silence, and seem genuinely content whether they're the center of attention or quietly observing from the side. Which person would you rather spend time with? Here's what's really happening. The first person is living for external approval. The second has cultivated authentic independence, and that's magnetic in ways most people never understand. Authentic independence isn't about being a lone wolf or proving you don't need anyone. It's about living life on your terms, guided by your own values, and finding fulfillment in who you are rather than in how others perceive you. When you've developed this kind of independence, you send a clear, unspoken message. I respect myself, and I don't need external approval to feel whole. Think about the most attractive people you've known in your life. Not just physically attractive, but genuinely magnetic individuals. Chances are they had this quality. They weren't trying to keep up with anyone else. They weren't constantly seeking permission or validation. They had their own path, their own purpose, and that quiet focus spoke louder than any words ever could. But let's be honest, authentic independence isn't easy to develop. We live in a world that profits from our insecurities, that constantly tells us we're not enough as we are. Developing true independence means learning to trust yourself when no one's cheering you on. It means standing by your choices even when they're unpopular. It means finding genuine peace in your own company, not because you're avoiding others, but because you've learned to be comfortable with who you are. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, wrote in his private journal about the importance of living according to your own principles rather than seeking the approval of others. He knew that external validation is fleeting, but self-respect that's permanent. Here's the beautiful paradox of authentic independence. The less you need others to validate you, the more they're naturally drawn to you. When you stop chasing approval, you become someone worth approving of. When you stop needing external noise to feel whole, you become someone others want to be around because your presence is calm, grounded, and genuine. To cultivate authentic independence, start by reflecting on your values. Ask yourself, am I living according to what truly matters to me, or am I being driven by what others expect? This isn't about becoming selfish, it's about becoming whole. When you're operating from a place of authentic independence, your relationships become healthier because they're built on mutual respect rather than neediness. Spend time alone regularly and learn to enjoy it. Take walks without podcasts or music. Sit in silence and reconnect with your thoughts. Practice making decisions based on your inner compass rather than external pressures. When you cultivate authentic independence, you don't have to seek attention, it finds you. People notice the calm confidence in your presence, the quiet assurance in your actions, and the unwavering strength in your character. You become someone who doesn't need to be the loudest in the room to be noticed. You're respected because you've built a life that reflects who you truly are. And that kind of authenticity, that's rare and deeply magnetic. Imagine you're in a crowded restaurant. The noise level is high, conversations are overlapping, and there's a general sense of chaos. Then someone walks in. They're not dramatically different from anyone else, but something about them immediately catches your attention. They move with intention, their posture is naturally upright, and when they speak to the host, their voice is calm and clear. They don't have to demand attention, their presence simply commands it. This is refined presence, and it's one of the most powerful forms of silent magnetism you can develop. Refined presence isn't about putting on airs or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about bringing the best version of yourself to every interaction. It's the art of moving through the world with grace, composure, and quiet confidence. When you master refined presence, you create an aura that people can't quite explain, but can definitely feel. This starts with how you carry yourself physically. Your body language tells a story before you ever speak a word. Confident posture, relaxed but upright, communicates self-assurance without arrogance. Steady eye contact shows that you're present and engaged. Deliberate movements, rather than rushed or nervous gestures, demonstrate that you're in control of yourself and your environment. But refined presence goes deeper than body language. It's reflected in your manners, your attention to detail, and your consideration for others. It's about greeting people warmly, listening attentively, and being mindful of how your presence affects the energy of a room. When you walk into a space, are you adding calm and dignity, or are you contributing to chaos? Here's where many people misunderstand the concept. Refined presence isn't about being formal or distant. It's about being thoughtfully engaged. It's the difference between someone who rushes through interactions and someone who is fully present in each moment. People remember how you make them feel, and refined presence makes others feel respected and valued. The Stoics had a beautiful understanding of this. They believed in the importance of composure, not because they were emotionless, but because they understood that how you present yourself to the world matters. Seneca wrote about the importance of grace under pressure, of maintaining dignity even in challenging circumstances. This isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Refined presence also includes attention to the subtle details that most people overlook. It's about taking care of yourself in a way that shows self-respect. This doesn't mean you need expensive clothes or perfect grooming. It means being clean, well-kept, and intentional about how you present yourself. It's choosing quality over quantity, whether that's in your clothing, your fragrance, or how you maintain your personal space. Think about it this way. Refined presence is like having good manners for your entire being. It's not about following arbitrary rules. It's about showing respect for yourself and others through thoughtful action. To develop refined presence, start by slowing down. Pay attention to how you move through your day. Are you rushing, tense, or scattered? Practice moving with intention. When you walk, walk with purpose. When you speak, speak clearly. When you listen, listen fully. Work on your posture and body language, not to impress others, but to feel more confident in your own skin. Practice making eye contact during conversations. Be mindful of your personal grooming and how you dress, not to show off, but to show that you respect yourself enough to put effort into your appearance. Most importantly, practice restraint. In a world full of noise, the ability to remain calm and composed is rare and powerful. When others lose their cool, staying collected gives you a quiet authority that people naturally respect. Refined presence isn't something you turn on for special occasions. It's a way of being. When you cultivate it consistently, you become someone whose very presence elevates the atmosphere of any room you enter. And that quiet elegance? It's magnetic in ways that demand nothing yet attract everything. So imagine this scenario. You're telling someone about something that matters to you, maybe a challenge you're facing, or an exciting opportunity that's come up. As you're speaking, you notice their eyes wandering to their phone. Their responses are generic, and you get the distinct feeling that while they're physically present, they're mentally somewhere else entirely. Now imagine the opposite scenario. You're sharing the same story with someone who looks you in the eye, asks thoughtful questions, and responds in a way that shows they truly heard you. They're not just waiting for their turn to speak, they're genuinely engaged with what you're saying. Which person would you want to spend more time with? This is the power of mindful connection, the ability to be fully present with others and to navigate social situations with emotional intelligence. In our distracted world, someone who can offer genuine attention and emotional awareness stands out like a lighthouse in fog. Mindful connection has two essential components: presence and emotional intelligence. Let's start with presence. Being truly present means resisting every urge to multitask during conversations. It means putting away your phone, quieting the mental chatter about what you need to do later, and focusing entirely on the person in front of you. When you're fully present, something magical happens. People feel heard, valued, and important. And here's what most people don't realize. This has nothing to do with what you say, and everything to do with how you listen. Great listeners are rare, and when you become one, people are naturally drawn to you because you offer something increasingly precious, genuine attention. But mindful connection goes beyond just being present. It requires emotional intelligence, the ability to read the emotional currents in any situation and respond appropriately. This means picking up on the subtle cues that most people miss. The slight tension in someone's voice, the way their posture changes when discussing certain topics, or the energy shift that happens when someone enters or leaves a conversation. Emotional intelligence isn't about manipulation or trying to control outcomes. It's about understanding your own emotions and the emotions of others. When you can navigate these emotional landscapes skillfully, you become someone others feel safe with, someone they trust, and someone they enjoy being around. The Stoics were masters of this concept, though they approached it differently than modern psychology might suggest. They believed in understanding human nature deeply, not to exploit it, but to connect with it compassionately. Epictetus taught that we should listen twice as much as we speak, and Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the importance of understanding others' perspectives, even when we disagree with them. Here's what emotional intelligence looks like in practice. You notice when someone seems overwhelmed, and instead of offering immediate solutions, you simply acknowledge what they're going through. You pick up on the fact that someone is excited about something, and you match their energy appropriately. You sense tension in a group conversation and know how to either address it directly or gracefully redirect the discussion. This doesn't mean you become an emotional chameleon, changing your personality to match everyone around you. Instead, you become emotionally flexible, able to respond to different emotional needs while staying true to yourself. Mindful connection also means being aware of the energy you bring into every interaction. Are you contributing to a positive atmosphere, or are you unknowingly creating tension? When you walk into a room, do you make the emotional temperature go up or down? To cultivate mindful connection, start by practicing presence in your daily interactions. When someone is speaking to you, resist the urge to formulate your response while they're still talking. Instead, listen with the intention to understand, not to reply. Ask follow-up questions that show you're engaged. Remember details from previous conversations. Work on reading emotional cues. Pay attention to body language, tone of voice, and what people aren't saying as much as what they are. Practice empathy, not just sympathy, but the ability to truly understand someone else's emotional experience. Most importantly, be patient with this process. Developing genuine emotional intelligence takes time, but the results are profound. When you become someone who truly sees and understands others, you become irreplaceable in their lives. People may not remember every word you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And when you consistently make others feel heard, understood, and valued through mindful connection, you become someone they naturally want to be around, not because you're trying to be magnetic, but because your presence genuinely enriches their experience. Here's a question. In our age of social media oversharing, when everyone broadcasts every meal, every thought, and every moment of their day, what would make someone truly intriguing? The answer might surprise you: holding something back. We live in a culture that encourages transparency to the point of exhaustion. People share their entire life stories on first dates, post their every emotion online, and feel compelled to explain their every decision to anyone who will listen. But there's something profoundly attractive about someone who maintains a sense of mystery, not through deception or game playing, but through thoughtful discretion. Compelling mystery isn't about being secretive or manipulative. It's about understanding that not everything needs to be shared immediately, that leaving some things unsaid can actually deepen connection rather than hinder it. It's about being selective with your words and stories, sharing what matters while keeping other parts of your life private. Think about the most intriguing people you've known. Chances are they revealed themselves gradually, like peeling back layers of an onion. Each conversation offered new insights into who they were, but you never felt like you had them completely figured out. This wasn't because they were fake or hiding something important. It was because they understood the art of gradual revelation. Mystery works because it engages one of the most powerful human drives, curiosity. When someone doesn't lay all their cards on the table immediately, it creates a natural desire to learn more. But here's the key: this has to be authentic mystery, not manufactured intrigue. You're not playing hard to get. You're simply being thoughtful about what you share and when. The Stoics had a deep appreciation for the power of restraint in communication. Epictetus taught that silence is often more powerful than speech, and Seneca wrote about the importance of speaking only when your words add value. This wasn't about being antisocial. It was about understanding that words have power, and that power is diminished when we use too many of them. Compelling mystery manifests in several ways. First, it's about not explaining every decision you make. When you choose to take an unconventional path or make an interesting choice, you don't need to justify it to everyone. Let your actions speak for themselves. This quiet confidence suggests depth and independent thinking. Second, it's about revealing personal information gradually. You don't need to share your life story in the first conversation. Instead, let people earn the right to know your deeper thoughts, experiences, and dreams. This doesn't mean being closed off. It means being intentional about intimacy and trust. Third, compelling mystery involves having layers to your personality. Develop interests, passions, and aspects of yourself that aren't immediately obvious. Maybe you're a successful business person who also writes poetry, or someone who appears quiet but has fascinating travel stories. When people discover these unexpected dimensions, it creates a sense of delightful surprise. But here's what compelling mystery is not. It's not being aloof or playing psychological games. It's not withholding affection or being emotionally unavailable. Healthy mystery maintains warmth and connection while preserving some personal space and privacy. The goal isn't to become an enigma that no one can understand. The goal is to become someone with enough depth that understanding you becomes a rewarding journey rather than a quick read. To cultivate compelling mystery, start by becoming more selective with what you share. Ask yourself, is this something that adds value to the conversation, or am I sharing it just to fill silence? Practice being comfortable with not explaining every aspect of your life to others. Develop interests and hobbies that you don't immediately broadcast. Let people discover these aspects of you naturally through conversation and observation. When someone asks about your weekend, instead of giving a detailed breakdown of every activity, share one interesting highlight and let them ask follow-up questions if they're curious. Learn to be comfortable with silence in conversations. You don't need to fill every pause with words. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply listen, observe, and respond thoughtfully when you have something meaningful to contribute. Work on having genuine depth to your character. Read books that challenge you, pursue interests that fascinate you, and develop opinions based on your own experience and reflection rather than just adopting popular viewpoints. Remember, compelling mystery isn't about being difficult to know. It's about being worth getting to know. When you maintain appropriate boundaries while still being warm and engaging, you create the kind of intrigue that draws people in naturally. In a world where everyone is an open book, be the person whose story unfolds like a well-written novel, engaging from the first page, but rich enough to keep readers coming back for more. Imagine you're having the worst day of your month. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. you're feeling overwhelmed, and you're questioning some major decisions you've made. Then you encounter two different people. The first person immediately starts offering solutions. Have you tried this? You should do that. If I were you, I would. They mean well, but their rapid-fire advice feels dismissive, as if your feelings don't matter, only fixing the problem does. The second person does something different. They listen without immediately jumping to solutions. They acknowledge that what you're going through sounds difficult. They don't try to minimize your experience or rush you to feel better. Instead, they offer their presence calm, patient, and understanding. Which person would you want to talk to again? This is the difference between reactive helpfulness and wise compassion. And it's one of the most powerfully attractive qualities you can develop. Wise compassion combines two essential elements: emotional understanding and practical wisdom. It's not just about being nice or sympathetic. It's about truly understanding others' experiences while also having the depth of perspective to offer genuine insight when appropriate. Let's start with the compassion part. Real compassion isn't about fixing people or solving their problems. It's about creating a space where people feel genuinely seen and understood. When someone shares something with you, whether it's a struggle, a joy, or a concern, your first response shouldn't be to judge, advise, or minimize. It should be to understand. This means listening not just to the words people say, but to the emotions behind them. It means being comfortable with others' discomfort without immediately trying to make it go away. Sometimes, the most compassionate thing you can do is simply sit with someone in their difficult moment and let them know they're not alone. But compassion without wisdom can become enabling or even harmful. This is where the wise part comes in. Wise compassion means having enough life experience, cultural understanding, and emotional intelligence to offer perspectives that are actually helpful when they're wanted. The wisdom component comes from being curious about the world and the people in it. It means reading broadly, learning from different cultures and perspectives, and developing a deep understanding of human nature. When you combine this broad understanding with genuine empathy, you become someone who can offer insights that are both kind and meaningful. The ancient Stoics exemplified this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." This wasn't about being a pushover. It was about understanding that everyone is fighting battles you know nothing about, while still maintaining your own standards and boundaries. Wise compassion also involves knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Sometimes, the wisest thing you can offer is simply your presence. Other times, a thoughtful question or gentle perspective can help someone see their situation more clearly. The key is reading the situation and the person accurately. Here's what wise compassion looks like in practice. When a friend is struggling with a difficult relationship, you don't immediately tell them to break up or stick it out. Instead, you listen. Ask thoughtful questions that help them explore their own feelings, and perhaps share relevant insights from your own experience or understanding of relationships, but only when they're ready to hear it. When a colleague is overwhelmed at work, you don't dismiss their stress or immediately offer to take on their responsibilities. You acknowledge their situation, perhaps offer practical help if appropriate, and create space for them to process their experience without judgment. This approach makes you incredibly attractive because people feel safe with you. They know you won't judge them, rush them, or make their problems about you. They trust that when you do offer insights, they come from a place of genuine care and understanding. To cultivate wise compassion, start by developing your emotional vocabulary. Learn to recognize and name the different emotions you see in yourself and others. Practice sitting with discomfort, both your own and others, without immediately trying to fix it. Read widely and expose yourself to different perspectives. Travel if you can, or explore other cultures through books, documentaries, and conversations. The more you understand about the breadth of human experience, the more compassionate and wise you can become. Work on your listening skills. When someone is sharing something with you, Resist the urge to immediately relate it to your own experience or offer solutions. Instead, ask questions that help them explore their own thoughts and feelings. Learn to distinguish between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy feels sorry for someone. Empathy seeks to understand their experience. Develop the ability to understand without absorbing others' emotions as your own. Most importantly, be patient with this process. Wise compassion develops over time through experience, reflection, and genuine care for others. But as you cultivate it, you'll notice something remarkable. People will begin to seek out your company, not because you have all the answers, but because your presence offers something rare, genuine understanding combined with helpful perspective. In a world full of quick fixes and superficial interactions, wise compassion stands out like a beacon. It draws people in because it offers what everyone craves: to be truly seen, understood, and valued for who they are. Have you ever met someone who just seemed to radiate energy and contentment? Not the manic, over-caffeinated energy that burns out quickly, but a steady, sustainable vitality that made you feel more alive just being around them. They laughed easily, seemed comfortable in their own skin, and brought a sense of lightness to even serious situations. That's balanced vitality, and it's one of the most magnetically attractive qualities you can develop. Balanced vitality combines two powerful elements: joyful presence and disciplined self-care. It's not about being the life of the party or forcing positivity. It's about cultivating a genuine sense of well-being that comes from taking care of yourself holistically, physically, mentally, and emotionally, while maintaining the ability to find joy and humor in life's everyday moments. Let's start with the joy component. We live in a world that often takes itself too seriously. Everyone's stressed, overwhelmed, and focused on what's wrong rather than what's right. In this environment, someone who can genuinely laugh at themselves, at life's absurdities, at the unexpected moments that catch us all off guard, becomes a breath of fresh air. But this isn't about forced cheerfulness or toxic positivity. It's about developing resilience through humor. It's about choosing to respond to life's inevitable challenges with lightness when appropriate, rather than always defaulting to stress and seriousness. Think about the people you most enjoy being around. Chances are, they're people who can find something to smile about even when things aren't perfect. They don't take themselves so seriously that they can't laugh at their own mistakes. They bring a sense of playfulness to interactions that makes everyone feel more relaxed and connected. The Stoics, often misunderstood as overly serious, actually valued this quality highly. Seneca wrote about the importance of maintaining a cheerful disposition, not because life is always easy, but because how we respond to difficulty is a choice. Marcus Aurelius noted that while we can't control what happens to us, we can control our attitude toward what happens. The vitality part of this equation comes from taking genuine care of yourself. This isn't vanity or self-indulgence, it's recognizing that you can't give what you don't have. When you take care of your physical health through regular exercise, proper nutrition, and adequate rest, you have more energy to offer others. When you tend to your mental health through reflection, learning, and stress management, you're more emotionally available and resilient. Balanced vitality shows up in how you carry yourself. People who take care of themselves move differently with more energy, confidence, and grace. They have better posture, clearer skin, brighter eyes. But more than that, they radiate the kind of self-respect that comes from honoring their own well-being. This doesn't mean you need to look like a fitness model or have perfect health. It means making consistent choices that honor your body and mind. It means getting enough sleep so you're not constantly exhausted. It means eating in a way that gives you energy rather than depleting it. It means moving your body regularly, whether that's through formal exercise or simply taking walks. But balanced vitality goes beyond physical self-care. It also means setting healthy boundaries, knowing when to say no, when to rest, and when to prioritize your own needs. People who practice balanced vitality don't burn themselves out trying to please everyone. They understand that taking care of themselves isn't selfish. It's necessary for being able to show up fully for others. Here's what makes this so attractive. When you take care of yourself consistently, you become someone who radiates health, happiness, and stability. You're not needy or draining to be around because you're not looking to others to fill gaps in your own well-being. Instead, you have energy and joy to share. To cultivate balanced vitality, start with the basics. Prioritize sleep, aim for 7 to 9 hours per night, and stick to a consistent schedule. Pay attention to how different foods make you feel, and choose ones that give you sustained energy. Find ways to move your body that you actually enjoy, whether that's dancing, hiking, swimming, or just taking long walks. Work on your mental and emotional self-care too. Develop practices that help you manage stress, whether that's meditation, journaling, or simply taking a few deep breaths throughout the day. Make time for activities that bring you genuine joy, even if they seem unproductive. Practice finding humor in everyday situations. Learn to laugh at your own mistakes instead of beating yourself up about them. Look for the absurd, unexpected, or ironic moments that happen throughout your day and allow yourself to be amused by them. Set boundaries that protect your energy. Say no to commitments that drain you without offering meaningful value. Prioritize relationships and activities that energize rather than exhaust you. Remember, balanced vitality isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. It's about making choices day after day that honor your well-being while maintaining a sense of lightness and joy about life. When you master balanced vitality, something remarkable happens. People are naturally drawn to your energy because it's sustainable and genuine. You become someone who lifts others up simply by being yourself healthy, joyful, and fully alive. And that kind of authentic vitality, it's absolutely magnetic. Imagine two people facing the same stressful situation. Let's say a delayed flight that's going to make them miss an important meeting. The first person immediately starts pacing, complaining loudly to anyone who'll listen, and spiraling into worst-case scenarios. Their stress is contagious. Everyone around them feels more anxious just being in their vicinity. The second person takes a deep breath, accepts the situation they can't control, and calmly starts making alternative arrangements. They're not happy about the delay, but they're not adding unnecessary drama to an already challenging situation. Which person would you rather sit next to? Which one do you respect more? This is emotional mastery in action, and it's one of the most powerfully attractive qualities you can develop. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about understanding your emotions, managing your reactions, and responding to situations from a place of strength rather than reactivity. When you master this skill, you become someone others naturally look to for stability and guidance. At its core, emotional mastery is about self-awareness. It's knowing what triggers you, understanding your emotional patterns, and recognizing when you're being hijacked by feelings rather than guided by wisdom. This awareness gives you a crucial moment of choice, the space between what happens to you and how you respond. Most people are emotionally reactive. Something triggers them, and they immediately respond from that triggered state, whether it's anger, fear, frustration, or anxiety. But people with emotional mastery have learned to pause, breathe, and choose their response based on what the situation actually requires, rather than what their emotions are demanding. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless or disconnected. It means becoming emotionally intelligent. You still feel everything, but you're not controlled by those feelings. You can experience anger without lashing out, feel disappointment without collapsing, or encounter stress without spreading it to everyone around you. The Stoics were masters of this concept. They developed an entire philosophy around the idea that while we can't control external events, we can always control our responses to them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Emotional mastery shows up in countless ways throughout your daily life. It's staying calm when someone criticizes you unfairly instead of immediately getting defensive. It's listening to feedback without taking it personally. It's handling disappointment with grace rather than bitterness. It's managing your anxiety in challenging situations so that you can think clearly and act effectively. People are magnetically drawn to those who have emotional mastery because they represent safety and stability in an unpredictable world. When you're emotionally centered, others feel more at ease around you. They trust that you won't overreact, that you can handle difficult conversations, and that your responses come from wisdom rather than emotion. But here's what makes emotional mastery truly attractive. It's not about being perfect or never feeling strong emotions. It's about being real while still being responsible for how you express those emotions. People respect authenticity, but they're drawn to authenticity that's been tempered with wisdom. Emotional mastery also involves something the Stoics called social awareness, the ability to read the emotional temperature of a room and respond appropriately. Sometimes this means offering calm leadership when everyone else is panicking. Sometimes it means knowing when to speak up and when to listen. Sometimes it means bringing levity to a tense situation or seriousness to a chaotic one. To develop emotional mastery, start by building self-awareness. Pay attention to your emotional triggers. What situations, people, or circumstances tend to knock you off balance? Once you know your triggers, you can prepare for them mentally and emotionally. Practice the pause. When you feel a strong emotional reaction rising, take a breath before responding. Ask yourself, what does this situation actually require from me? This simple practice can transform your relationships and your reputation. Learn to separate your thoughts from your emotions. Just because you feel something doesn't mean it's true or that you need to act on it immediately. Emotions provide information, but they shouldn't be the only factor in your decision-making. Work on stress management. Develop healthy ways to process and release emotional tension, whether that's through exercise, meditation, journaling, or talking with trusted friends. The better you are at managing your own emotional state, the more stable and attractive your presence becomes. Practice empathy without absorption. Learn to understand others' emotions without taking them on as your own. This allows you to be supportive without becoming emotionally overwhelmed. Most importantly, be patient with yourself as you develop this skill. Emotional mastery isn't about never making mistakes. It's about learning from them and getting better over time. Every situation where you choose wisdom over reactivity builds your emotional strength and makes you more attractive to others. When you master your emotions, you become someone others can count on. You become a source of calm in storms, wisdom in confusion, and strength in difficulty. And that kind of emotional leadership, it's absolutely magnetic. Here's another scenario that might sound familiar. You have a friend who's always excited about new plans, enthusiastically commits to activities, and talks passionately about goals and projects. But when it comes time to follow through, they're nowhere to be found. They cancel last minute, change their mind constantly, and seem to have a different priority every week. Now imagine another person in your life. They're not the most exciting or dynamic personality, but when they say they'll do something, they do it. When they commit to showing up, they're there. When they set a goal, they quietly work toward it day after day. Which person do you trust more? Which one do you respect more deeply? This is the power of unwavering consistency, and it might be the most underrated form of attractiveness in our culture. We live in a world that celebrates the dramatic gesture, the grand promise, the exciting new beginning. But there's something profoundly magnetic about someone who understands that real strength isn't found in sporadic bursts of intensity. It's found in steady, reliable action over time. Unwavering consistency isn't about being boring or predictable. It's about being dependable in a world where dependability has become rare. It's about building trust through actions rather than words. It's about showing up for yourself, for others, and for your commitments even when you don't feel like it. Think about the most respected people in your life. Chances are they share this quality. They might not always be the most charismatic or exciting people in the room, but they're the ones you call when you really need something. They're the ones whose word means something. They're the ones who build things that last rather than things that flash brightly and burn out. Consistency creates trust, and trust is the foundation of all attraction, whether romantic, platonic, or professional. When people know they can count on you. When your actions align with your words over time, you become someone others naturally gravitate toward. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Consistency is the embodiment of that philosophy. You don't need to constantly talk about your values or intentions. You demonstrate them through your actions, day after day, choice after choice. But let's be clear about what consistency means and what it doesn't mean. Unwavering consistency isn't about being rigid or inflexible. It's not about never changing your mind or growing as a person. It's about being reliable in your character, your effort, and your commitments while remaining open to learning and adaptation. Consistency shows up in the small things as much as the big ones. It's arriving when you say you will. It's following through on minor commitments with the same care you'd give to major ones. It's maintaining your standards and values even when no one is watching. These small acts of reliability compound over time, creating a reputation that speaks louder than any words ever could. Here's what makes consistency so attractive. It demonstrates self-respect and respect for others. When you honor your commitments, you're saying, "My word matters, and so do you." When you show up consistently for your own goals and growth, you're demonstrating that you value yourself enough to do what you say you'll do. Consistency also reflects emotional maturity. It shows that you're not driven by mood or impulse, but by intention and character. People are naturally drawn to this stability because it represents safety in an unpredictable world. They know that your kindness isn't dependent on your mood. Your reliability isn't contingent on convenience, and your presence isn't subject to whim. One of the most powerful aspects of consistency is how it builds momentum. When you consistently work toward your goals, exercise regularly, practice new skills, or maintain relationships, you create compound effects that are far greater than sporadic bursts of effort. This steady progress is quietly impressive and deeply attractive because it shows that you understand how real change happens. To cultivate unwavering consistency, start with self-awareness. What are your patterns? Where do you tend to start strong but fade over time? Understanding your own tendencies is the first step toward changing them. Begin with small commitments that you can realistically maintain. Maybe it's making your bed every morning, taking a daily walk, or reading for 15 minutes before bed. The goal isn't to transform your entire life overnight. It's to build the muscle of following through on what you say you'll do. Keep your word in small things as much as large ones. If you tell someone you'll call them back, do it. If you commit to meeting a deadline, meet it. If you promise to help with something, follow through. These seemingly minor acts of consistency build trust and respect over time. Develop systems that support consistency rather than relying on motivation alone. Motivation fluctuates, but systems and habits can carry you through the times when you don't feel like following through. Create environments and routines that make consistency easier rather than harder. Be honest about your limitations and don't overcommit. It's better to underpromise and overdeliver than to constantly disappoint others and yourself. When you do commit to something, treat that commitment as sacred, regardless of how small it might seem. Most importantly, be patient with the process. Consistency is built over time, and there will be setbacks. What matters isn't perfection, it's getting back on track quickly when you inevitably fall off. Each time you choose to honor a commitment despite not feeling like it, you're building the kind of character that others naturally respect and admire. When you master unwavering consistency, You become someone whose presence alone suggests reliability, strength, and integrity. You don't need to announce your dependability. It shows in every interaction, every kept promise, and every goal you quietly pursue until completion. In a world full of grand promises and broken commitments, be the person who shows up. Be the person whose word means something. Be the person others can count on, not because you're trying to impress them, but because consistency has become part of who you are. That quiet reliability, it's one of the most magnetic qualities you can possess. As we reach the end of our journey together, take a moment to reflect on where we started. We began with a simple observation. There are people who command attention and respect without demanding it, who attract meaningful relationships without chasing them, who inspire admiration through presence rather than performance. Now you know their secret. True magnetism isn't about being the loudest voice in the room or the most dramatic personality at the party. It's about cultivating 8 essential qualities that speak louder than words ever could. Authentic independence, refined presence, mindful connection, compelling mystery, wise compassion, balanced vitality, emotional mastery, and unwavering consistency. Together, these 8 keys create something profound, a quiet confidence that draws people in naturally, a calm strength that makes others feel safe and valued, and an authentic presence that leaves lasting impressions long after conversations end. But here's what I want you to understand. These aren't qualities you put on like a costume or techniques you deploy when you want to be attractive. They're habits that transform you from the inside out. When you truly embody authentic independence, you stop seeking validation because you've learned to validate yourself. When you master emotional intelligence, you stop creating drama because you've learned to respond rather than react. The beautiful truth about silent magnetism is that it doesn't just make you more attractive to others, it makes you more attractive to yourself. You begin to respect the person you see in the mirror. You start to appreciate your own company. You develop a quiet confidence that doesn't need external confirmation because it's built on genuine self-knowledge and consistent action. Remember, this isn't about perfection. You don't need to master all 8 keys simultaneously or never make mistakes. Growth is a process, and the most attractive thing about it is the journey itself, the willingness to keep becoming a better version of yourself, even when no one's watching. Start where you are. Choose 1 or 2 of these keys that resonate most strongly with you right now. Maybe you want to work on being more present in your conversations, or perhaps you're drawn to developing more emotional mastery. The key is to begin, to make small, consistent changes that align with the person you want to become. As you practice these habits, pay attention to how they affect not just your relationships with others, but your relationship with yourself. Notice how authentic independence brings you peace. Observe how wise compassion deepens your connections. Feel how balanced vitality energizes your daily life. These changes are worth pursuing for their own sake, regardless of how others respond. But here's what you'll likely discover. When you stop trying to be attractive and start focusing on being your best self, attraction follows naturally. When you prioritize character over charisma, genuine connections over casual impressions, people begin to seek out your company not because you're performing for them, but because your presence genuinely enriches their experience. The world needs more people who embody these qualities. In an age of superficial connections and performative living, someone who offers genuine presence, authentic kindness, and quiet strength stands out like a beacon. You have the opportunity to be that person, not just for what it brings to your life, but for what it brings to everyone around you. So as you move forward, remember this. True magnetism isn't something you chase, it's something you cultivate. It's not about making noise, it's about making an impact. It's not about demanding attention, it's about deserving respect. Take these 8 keys and make them your own. Practice them not because you want something from others, but because you want something better for yourself. Build the kind of presence that you would want to be around. Become the kind of person you would admire. The path of silent magnetism is a quiet one. but it's profoundly powerful. It transforms not just how others see you, but how you show up in the world. And in a culture that often mistakes loudness for strength and chaos for passion, your calm, steady presence will be a gift to yourself, to those around you, and to a world that desperately needs more people who understand that true attraction comes from within. Thank you for taking this journey. Now go quietly change the world, starting with yourself.